Okay, so as promised, we are going to remove the small intestine, large intestine, and the stomach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow down. Now this is the urinary bladder here. I don't want to mess with the urinary bladder. I'm going to go on the back side of that, and I'm going to cut to the lowest part of the colon. There's connective tissue on the back side, but that's okay. And then we're going to go up to the top portion here and cut the stomach right by the esophagus as it goes through the diaphragm. From here, we have our stomach going into the small intestine to the large intestine. And so one of the things we can see is the mesentery, which is really, really cool. Look at that vascular system. This is where food exchange is occurring. So this is part of the small intestine, and we can see this is how we're giving blood or taking nutrients from the digestive tract and distributing to every cell in the body. This is also the place where waste is given back to. So in the intestinal tract, this is what we have to remove nutrients, deliver it to every portion of the cell, and to give waste. So let's see what we got in here. Let's start with our stomach. So now if we look at our stomach right here before we hit the small intestine, again using a little blunt dissection to remove some of the connective tissue that we have here, we can see this little groove. This guy right here, and that's the sphincter. So that's what we want to cut at. It's the normal place to tell us, hey, there's your stomach. The stomach is a pouch-like organ. We're going to cut the stomach open so that we can see the intestinal tract, or what's inside, the contents of our rum-dum-dummy. What was this kitty cat eating? This can tell a little bit about not only was this a well-cared-for cat, or was this a street cat? So now that I have this open, oh, not even a hairball in sight. So this is what cat food looks like. This stomach is pretty stretched out, which means this cat ate on a pretty regular basis. There's a little bit of surface area increase, but not a whole lot. So this cat was a pretty well-fed kitty cat. Now, the real tell is like, let's see how big this is. So we are going to cut the mesentery so that we can see a few things. One, we want to see the pancreas for our kitty. Oh, beautiful. I was hoping that I find one. Here's an abdominal lymph node. This little bean-like structure. Your abdominal cavity has a ton of lymph nodes in them, and so that is one of them. If they're really large, it means that there is some illness associated, and so there's a group of lymph nodes right here, and they're swollen. So we can see these guys right here. These are more bean-like structures. The lymphatic system runs parallel to your circulatory system, and it's kind of cleaning everything out. It's kind of like the waste treatment plant. And so these are some lymph nodes, and that's storing some bacteria. So they become swollen when you're ill. And it looks like this cat has quite a bit of lymphatic swelling on it. So we're just removing some of this. We're going to stretch this out and see how long our intestinal tract is. I'm also going to show you a better view of the pancreas and our appendix. Finger-like projection. Again, I'm just cutting this mesentery to stretch out our intestinal tract so we can see all this. I'm finding lymph nodes everywhere. So this cat was ill of some type. What it was, not really sure. But if we look, intestinal tract, look at all this intestinal tract. So we got a finger-like projection here. That guy, appendix. So let's stretch this out and see what we got. Stretched out to the length that we can get it to. I'm going to show you your pancreas here in a little bit. We're at 1.4 meters. 1.4 meters for this guy right here. You can see this, pancreas. This is what's delivering insulin. Portion for the intestinal tract needs to have this. You can see how vascular this is. It's really important that we know that this stuff is good. So this is our colon. This is where your poop formation is happening. It's reabsorbing water in here. We're not going to cut open every portion of the small intestine, but we are going to cut up some of the intestinal tract. One of the things you can see is any parasites that were in the cat when you cut that open. And so if we have any parasites, they're going to be found within the intestinal tract. And so this is where you would find your worms, roundworms, tapeworms. So these live within this tract. Right now all I'm seeing is cat food. Now again, we won't cut open the entire meterage of this, but it's pretty easy to see. I don't feel anything in there either. Usually if you have some type of worms within your intestinal tract, you can feel them in there because they're preserved as well, so they're kind of hard. And so right now I don't feel anything when I feel down the intestinal tract. And all we can see in there is food residue. We'll start with the colon then and look on the back end to see if there's anything there. This is where you would see like roundworms. These are usually found within the soil. If this cat was sick and they just may have died of age and illness, then this cat would have been just put down and probably then donated to science because its owner didn't want to have a funeral for it or couldn't. And so you can see the increased surface area that we see right here. That's that kind of fluctuating stuff. This is just normal poop or feces. So there is no parasites in here. So they probably did have some type of infection with the size of the lymph nodes that we're finding, but this is pretty normal for a very well cared for house cat that probably lived to a very ripe old age. So what do we have left? So now we have our urinary system that's left. And so we'll go on to another section and we'll talk about this urinary system. When you come back, you're going to see all of this kind of cleaned up so we can expose some of this.